A couple of things before we get started. We're hoping to run for about an hour. Niall will do a presentation on content marketing, followed by a Q&A with Wayne, who's currently hiding in the back. And then at the end, we'll do questions for both of them all at once or together. We know that in forums like this, as relaxed as we try to make it, people don't like asking questions. So if you want to tweet a question, if you use the hashtag TTLP, we'll pick them up and then we'll ask the question for you at the end. So please ask as many questions, tweet all the way through, put the hashtag in. We're really looking forward to getting those questions, throwing them back at Wayne and Niall, and letting them answer. Just a side note on that, if you are connected to the Wi-Fi, we're live streaming this event, and the more people are connected to the Wi-Fi, the slower it becomes. So if you've got 3G, if you could use that instead of the Wi-Fi, please, that would be ideal. That way we won't have a bit of a technical disaster halfway through. But that's it from me. So Niall's going to be up, and I'll see you again at the end. Thank you very much.
Oh, Christ almighty, yes, that's it. How is it going? So today we're going to take a look at content marketing. It's quite a buzz at the minute in the digital marketing industry, but it's something that's been about for, well, forever really. It's just evolving, and we're going to look at, you know, ways in which content marketing has been done now by a mixture of large brands, smaller companies, how you can start doing it yourself, how you would start the planning process, and some useful tools. And then, as Andy had sort of said afterwards, I'm going to have a Q&A with Wayne on online reputation. So how you would manage maybe difficult situations online that sometimes organizations don't know really where to begin or how to begin managing negative reviews and things like that. So just to give you an overview of the chat here, take a wee look at what content marketing is. The evolution of content marketing, it's become a real big thing probably the last 3-4 years. Who does it well and what they're doing. The change in behaviors, so how people are consuming content on the go. Why content marketing works and how you can get started. So as Andy said, you can share your thoughts throughout the talk here. And if you have any questions asked, just use the hashtag TTLP on Twitter and we'll pick them up. So, excuse me, because there might be a bit of bending down here to click the next slide. But what is content marketing? Well, this is a sort of description from the Content Marketing Institute. It's quite long, but essentially it's a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. Now, the big things here to note is valuable, relevant, and consistent content. You want to get something out there that's unique to your customers, to your target audience, and the big thing there as well, a clearly defined target audience. One of the big things is to know who you're trying to get content out towards. They will be your customers. Create personas around those customers and know what it is they like to read, what it is they like to look at, how they consume content, what channels are the best channels to find those customers. And that involves quite a bit of research. But the big thing to remember is with any content marketing, it must be valuable. Your customer must want to take the time to read it, to take the time to share it, to recommend it. It must be relevant to them. That might make them want to go and purchase something or find out more information. And it must be consistent. A consistent approach to everything you do, be it through social media, through your blog, through video. So the content marketing cycle. Well, there's probably a lot of different content marketing cycles, but this is my version of the content marketing cycle. And at the Tomorrow Lab, whenever we're looking at any content marketing strategy, this is the way we look at things. Start off with a plan. You know, everything needs to start with a plan, and that will be, you know, who you're trying to target, what is the end outcome, and then you start to get creative. With content marketing, it is all about ideas, and no idea is a bad idea. You know, ideas can start off with something very, very small, and they can grow. So you need to be creative, and that process can involve anyone within the organization. It doesn't just have to be a marketing team, a digital marketing team. It can be anyone. Then once you've created your content, you have to start promoting it. You have to start getting it out there. Yes, you want to try and get it out there, you know, naturally through organic means where it doesn't really cost money. But nowadays, the internet is challenging. Social media channels like Facebook and Twitter, it is becoming a case where you need to invest in promoting content to make sure people find it. And ultimately, all this work you want to convert. You want to convert it into traffic coming to your website, to leads, You know, you want to convert it to sales at the end of the day. You want to see that your content marketing efforts is leading to something at the end. So you'll set up KPIs so that you can start to measure the content marketing efforts. And this is where your review stage comes in. You use your Google Analytics, use insights through social media channels, start to find out where traffic is coming from, you know, what content marketing channels and efforts that you have used, how they are driving people to the site, and more importantly, how they are driving the right type of customer to the site, the customer that's converting. And then you put that back into the process again and you plan again. Because content marketing, like any digital marketing strategy, is constantly evolving. And you go through these stages all the time. You're reviewing what's worked, what hasn't worked, and you're evolving that. So why is content marketing important? Well, to begin with, it creates awareness, but more importantly than that, Google has an update, Google Panda, and it targets poor content. And content marketing helps put an organization in a position where they can start to rank based on their content efforts. So poor content is, you know, sites that maybe have thin content, that have duplicate content, that is maybe content that's appeared on another site first, and it's just been copied across. Or machine-generated content. To date, Google Panda has been updated 27 times. I think there's talk of one at the minute happening. And it gives small to medium sites a chance to start to rank better, because you can get content that is really relevant to what you're offering, to what you're selling, and start to make it a big focus of your site. And for a lot of content marketing strategies, that's the main starting point, is that the content on your site is the way it needs to be, and then you start to build out from there. It's all about investing time and quality content for your site and for other channels. So this is all geared to increasing your visibility in search engine results pages. One, through the content that you start to have on the website, it starts to make it more relevant for the search terms that you want people to be finding you for. And two, if the content is done right, promoted in the right channels, you'll start to generate links. You'll start to get the right sort of people linking to your website. And links and content are the two biggest things for starting to increase your visibility in search engines. Your competitors are doing it. Content marketing is growing. Companies are starting to invest time in content marketing strategies. So you can be guaranteed that if they're not, your competitors will definitely be looking at a content marketing strategy. And it'll be perhaps the main focus of any digital marketing strategy. From an SEO point of view, content marketing is crucial. It also gives you an opportunity to start to inform your customers, to empower your customers. I mean, you want to make the decision-making process for them as easy as possible, and that's where content marketing plays a big role. And we'll go through a couple of examples later on of how content marketing can be done on a website and how it can be done off the site. And all this is geared at bringing customers, putting you in front of your customers, in front of the right audience, so that you can start to, you know, generate more business, more leads. And also you start to highlight your expertise to show that you are an expert in a particular area. Particularly for small companies, this can be a big challenge, you know, to show that you are as much an expert as, you know, the market leader, that you know as much as they do. And your content marketing efforts really gives you an opportunity here to shout about what you can offer and to show people what you can do. And time is money. Content marketing is a big way to try and get traffic to your website ultimately, but it's making sure that the content is put in the right way, that people can see as soon as they come on the site, they get the information they need. They're able to read what they want. They can see what they want relatively quickly. So positioning content on a website is crucial as well. And on average, I mean, this stat's probably changed now, but you're dealing with consumers online who are so impatient. It's probably less than 8 seconds now that they are on a site, and if they don't get the information they want within 8 seconds, they'll go elsewhere. You know, page speeds of a site as well all impacts on your content marketing. If a page doesn't load within a couple of seconds, you know, they're going to hit the back button and go and visit another site. So time is money online, and ensuring that your users can find the content as quickly as possible, read it, digest the main points, is such a big thing going forward. So how has content marketing evolved? Well, I'm not going to go through all of this here. And I'll be uploading the slides afterwards, so with links to all this information. But that sort of gives you an overview of just some of the components of content marketing. You know, you have blog posts, you have video games, you have competitions, you have press releases, you have infographics, you have videos. there is a lot that goes into content marketing, and there's a lot of work and time, and it really is a case of finding out what fits your organization, what fits your product, what fits your offering, and how you can work it into, you know, to the team that you have and the time that you have to invest in it. So how content is evolving? Well, things like vlogging, I mean, it's becoming an industry on its own. You know, YouTube vloggers who are becoming celebrities. Zoella, a beauty blogger who's had a show on Radio 1 recently, and you know, they are becoming celebrities on their own. They're endorsing products. Vlogging is a huge part of the content marketing sort of the sphere at the minute. And that's because a lot of people as well like to digest content through video. And that market, well, that sort of audience that's grown up with vlogging are soon going to become a key audience for most consumers, you know, or for most organizations. So starting to sort of look at that sort of content, video content, and how you can incorporate that into your blog or setting up a YouTube channel, you know, is crucial, really. Social media, if I was giving this talk 10 years ago, there probably would have been very little talk on social media, and it just continues to evolve. There's something new comes out every year. Facebook's still obviously the leader, but that's where people go maybe to find a certain news story on a first instance. You know, a friend will have shared something, a friend will have shared a video, an article, and you'll read it, and you'll maybe go and find out more information there. And as consumers, we're influenced by our peers. You know, we're more likely to buy something based on a recommendation from a friend. So social media has a big impact on content. As does BuzzFeed, which has sort of come out of nowhere to make ridiculous titles so popular that you just want to click on them and then afterwards think, what have I done? But BuzzFeed is sort of, it's shown how content marketing can be used in a much more clever way, testing titles, using titles that are geared at getting people clicking through to the site, have an interesting news story, some interesting content there that once they come on the site, they'll want to find out more. Snapchat, when I talk about the 8 seconds, you know, you're working with a target market now of people who have less time to spend digesting things. Snapchat's a prime example of this here. You know, when brands are starting to jump on board with using Snapchat, you know, a video might only last 3 or 4 seconds and it's gone. You add it to your story and you have it the whole day. So tools like Snapchat are I think anyway, only going to become more prominent in the coming years. And content hubs. A lot of big websites and even small websites will have a certain section of their site dedicated to content. So that pulls in video content, has blog posts, has advice, has information that can help people maybe make a decision on, do I buy this, do I buy that, or do I find out more about this, do I find out more about that. This is becoming the real focus point of many sites for feeding in all your content marketing efforts. So in terms of on-site content, and as I said, this is a big part of any content marketing strategy. It's your website. So you look at unique landing pages and you start to build content around specific terms, specific, you know, target keywords and areas that you want to be, you know, you want people to be searching for and finding you. Any website, in my opinion anyway, should have a news or blog section, somewhere that you can go up and start to write and share content. And for a lot of people, that will be, you know, that will be the starting point for any content strategy. You'll get an article up, you'll get a blog post up, and then you'll start to spread it around, share it on social media, feed it into your email marketing strategy, you know, and then start to evolve it into an infographic, a video tutorial, things like that there. Video content, as I touched on earlier, is only going to become more important. And particularly when you be thinking, as people are on the go now, they're digesting things on their mobile phone, they're getting things quickly, they're watching a lot of video content on the go. Social feeds are something that we're seeing more and more coming into websites. They're starting to take content that your customers are generating. Maybe they're talking about a particular hotel they've been to, or they're talking about using a product of yours, and you're starting to pull all this into your website. So someone lands on your site and they can see this content being fed in, and it sends out certain trust signals as well. It shows that, you know, it's almost like a customer review. Knowledge pages, probably a bit like the landing pages, are just really about advice and getting as much information in as possible. Again, these are going to be evergreen pages that will be there forever, really, and targeting on the right sort of, it's probably more detailed content than anything that someone can come onto the site and they can get the real information they need from these pages. Product guides for many e-commerce sites. You know, if you're selling a particular product, product guides are a must to let people know what the product does, maybe how they use the product, you know, what variations are available in the product, and use all this here, and that all helps in the decision-making process. And case studies and white papers again are just ways of getting content out there, you know, talking about something that's been done, writing a real detailed, research-driven piece that, you know, you then start to promote, and you'll start to generate links through that as well. People talking about maybe a particular white paper and the research that came off the back of that there. And this shows like there's a lot of sort of areas here that can look at, you know, that can be across the board from a B2C site, a B2B site. It can sort of tie into many channels. The big thing going forward is content's all about telling the story, you know, connecting with your customer, with your target audience through a particular story. So just a few examples here of blog content. So this is our own blog in the Tomorrow Lab, and you'll see it's just a case of, you know, titles and a wee snippet, and then you get someone through to read more about the article there. And then if your blog set up well, you'll give recommended articles that people can start to read more about. And as I say, for many, this is the starting point of any content marketing strategy. You have a news feed, a blog section, you know, an information section on your site that you can regularly update, you know, once a week, twice a week, even if it's once a month in some cases, that there's content going there that you can start to share out through other channels. Video content. So a site I go to quite a bit would be Sky Sports. And I suppose recently anyway, they've been really heavy on getting video content up there. And obviously for someone like Sky Sports, this is much easier than other organizations, because, you know, TV channel, they're getting a lot of video content throughout the day. But they're pulling the best bits together. They're putting it onto an area of the site that you can come and digest, look at something quickly, so you don't have to oversee everything. And that's probably a big thing with video, is it's, you know, short video works really well. And that is where the likes of Vine and Snapchat and Instagram are really starting to become popular, because it's getting the key points that you want really, really quickly without having to sit and look at something for an hour. You know, you get the best bits within 2 or 3 minutes, but you still know what happened. And video is only going to continue to grow in importance. And then we look at social feeds, and for me, one of the best at doing this is Discover Northern Ireland. And that is getting people who are out and about, who are visiting maybe Northern Ireland, and they're sharing tweets and they're sharing photos on Instagram, and you're pulling all that there in. And that's creating content, user-generated content, that if someone lands onto a website in a particular section on the site, that they can start to look through all of this here and you know, maybe draw inspiration from it. And this is something that I think will become, you know, more and more common in websites, you know, over the next 2, 3, 4 years. There'll be a real content hub on websites that will start to pull in content from users, and eventually, you know, your customers start to become a brand advocate for you. And this next one just sort of looks at the Instagram feed for the Discover NI site. So again, very visual, and you know, a lot of people, what they see, you know, it's easier to digest information through a video, through a nice image, than it is maybe through a text-based article. But there is certain ways that certain times that you know, text-based is best used, that an image or an infographic is best used, that a video, long or short, is best used. And all that comes with testing and trying out to see what works best in terms of driving people to the site, generating leads and things like that. And if you look at B&Q, they've done really well in creating a real knowledge hub on the site. So you go on and you can really get information on almost anything. Videos, you know, guides on how to work things, how to do things, you know, design tips, design ideas across the board, garden, indoor, inside the house, outside the house. So they've obviously spent a lot of time and huge resource on pulling the content hub together. But as I say, you will start to see more and more of this within websites, and that is another way of getting as much content as you can onto the website, and then starting to share that out across multiple channels. So who does content marketing well? I mean, I know we touched on a few examples there of different types of content marketing, but I have a couple of websites here and a couple of examples of content marketing that's, to me anyway, that has just been done really, really well, and getting customers involved and things like that there. And the first one for me is probably the best at it, which is Red Bull. And I mean, you think of what Red Bull is, it's an energy drink, and you're looking at their website and you don't see an energy drink anywhere. Red Bull have just been masters of content marketing to create interest and awareness in who they are. And you just look at some of the things they're involved with their videos, and the sports they're getting involved with. They're creating content for people that people want to engage with, they want to look at, and the Red Bull brand is shining through that. And it's not just online, because they have the Red Bulletin, which is a magazine, and that's content as well. That's giving users, that's giving their audience content to read through. And for me, Red Bull, like, if you get a chance, just take a look through their site and some of the stuff they're doing. They are fantastic. They're a company who are just head and shoulders above a lot of people in their content marketing efforts. Starbucks is another one. And this is a My Starbucks idea, and this is really starting to get the customer involved, to get ideas from your customers and to start to put them into action, really. And My Starbucks idea is basically any idea for Starbucks, if it's a type of coffee, a type of drink, some way that the service can be improved, and people just upload those there. And then obviously Starbucks have a team that start to go through it, but a really good way of, generating content, generating ideas, and then using that there throughout other channels. And I have a short video here, which might take a wee bit of chopping and changing through the screens here just to get up, but this was a campaign that Caterpillar run and are still in the process of running, called Built for It. And essentially the problem they were faced with was, how do you make huge machinery like that there? How do you make it something that the everyday person wants to find out something about? Somebody, a young son, might be looking at this here and their father's involved in the construction industry, and then he comes across and sees it. That was their big challenge, was how do we create content that is going to be watched or going to be sort of received by more people than just a purchasing manager, someone who's going to make a decision on heavy machinery. And they come up with this campaign, which looked at multiple videos to show how their machinery can do things that you maybe wouldn't think they can do. And the videos are done really, really well. And it's just content like that. As soon as it's uploaded, then people just start to buy into it. They'll start to share it. You'll start to generate awareness of what it is. You'll start to generate a lot of link value as well. And obviously things, I guess, there are budgets that will impact on what can be done, and in terms of the quality of a finished shoot like this on a video. But as long as as long as you have like a smartphone or something like that, there are ways of doing this sort of stuff relatively cheaply, relatively quickly, using a smartphone, editing it, getting it onto your website, and that's just given a different form of content that your users can start to digest. So I'm going to click on this here, and you can take a wee look at how they basically played the biggest game of Jenga ever. Cheers. So I suppose that's a way of, obviously a huge global brand, but that's how they've looked at content marketing and created something that maybe you wouldn't associate with the machinery. And they've really sort of thought outside the box there and come up with the Jenga game as a concept for creating content that's going to be shared across the web and to get people talking about Caterpillar. And if you search for the build for it, you'll see I think there's 3 or 4 different videos that they've done across the course of the last maybe 12 months or something like that, that sort of highlights some of their products, and maybe in a way that you wouldn't really associate Caterpillar. So this next one is a project we were involved in ourselves last year, and this looked at working with Expedia to travel around Ireland and to create content with travel bloggers, to create content for Expedia and to start to tap into the local community. So using things like Facebook and Twitter, we let people know if we were visiting Kerry, for example, what is it to do in Kerry? So we were getting user-generated feedback that way. We're going to be in Limerick in a couple of weeks. What is it to do? What should we go and see? And then starting to work with bloggers, to work with them whenever we're visiting certain areas, and to really start to create a lot of content on that particular area. And as you can see here, trip to Limerick, you just look at the social shares there. I mean, that sort of content being created there and getting that out there and letting people know, a bit about the trip and, a wee bit about what somebody did within the trip. That's content that people are starting to share among themselves, share with their friends, particularly if you're from that area. You're knowing that someone like Expedia came and visited the area. Here's what they did. Check all this out. So that's just something we did, that sort of looked at, right, how can we look at content marketing for someone like Expedia that doesn't really involve doing work on their site, but looks at other channels, looks at working with bloggers and creating content for bloggers and working with social media channels and tying the whole lot in. And another client that we've been working with recently is Tenants NI, and they've sort of run a campaign towards the tail end of last year, early this year, to try and find out what people associate with Northern Ireland. So, creating a glass that says Northern Ireland, really. So through Facebook, they created an app that asked people, what says Northern Ireland to you? People were putting in locations, putting in sayings, and off the back of that was this glass that has been pushed across Facebook, that has been pushed across the web, and there's been great feedback from it. And again, this is just another way of getting content from your customers and then pushing it out there. And people will start talking about that glass. They'll start to talk about tenants online, about this new glass and the whole connection with Northern Ireland. And that's where the whole sort of ideas process comes in. Sitting down and discussing what can work, what could potentially, start to generate a bit of interest. For something like that, that's the end product, is the glass. And one thing with content is changing behaviors. So how your customers are starting to consume content. Again, if we'd have sat here 10 years ago talking, people probably would be consuming content on a mobile, but in a totally different way than they are today. Mobile and tablets are changing how people are using the internet, basically. This year, in my opinion anyway, mobile phone traffic will overtake your desktop traffic. And I mean, to think about that a few years back, it would have seemed, that would never happen. But mobile is only going one way, and people are starting to visit websites on their mobile. They're starting to consume content on their mobile through apps, through websites, through social channels, things like that. Smart TVs, Apple's Watch, things that we've took for granted for years, a TV and a watch, that's now feeding into how we digest content on a daily basis, how we look at a website, how we use an app, how we watch a video, how we listen to music. All of that there is changing, so it is. And content marketing efforts are going to have to change with this. You're going to have to start thinking from as small a screen as possible and work your way up. How will a blog, how will a video, how will a visual infographic, how will it look on a small device with a small screen, and work your way up. And games consoles as well, how content is being viewed through games consoles. is changing how content marketing is being done. And just a few websites here that, you know, probably 2 years ago, if I'd have stood here, wouldn't have been mentioning. And they're probably some of the most popular websites, apps that people use. You know, you have Snapchat, Vine, BuzzFeed, and Upworthy for content, and then Periscope, which is just out, and we're trialing it today, doing our own, you know, recording this here through Periscope. So the way people are consuming content it's just evolving, and it's going to continue to evolve. And I suppose the biggest challenge for organizations of any size is to make sure that you're shifting with this here, that you're starting to produce content in a way that, you know, your audience is familiar with digesting the content. So content on the go, as I talked about mobile, you know, more people are using mobiles not only to view content, to view videos, but they're also using mobiles to share content. Just a wee stat on smartphone ownership, and you know, at 2013 it was about 65% in the UK. You know, in 2 years' time, it's projected that'll be over 90%. You know, a lot of people, smartphones are becoming more affordable, and a lot of people will start to now be using smartphones to share content. So it is a case of starting to think mobile first, and this creates challenges. But when we look at, you know, the latest update there from Google to reward mobile-friendly sites, that just shows the way that things are starting to go. You will have to start thinking about how your users digest your content on a mobile phone on small screens, and then work your way up. In terms of content marketing as well, big impact of social media. It's where a lot of people will read a lot of their content on a daily basis. And this gives you an idea of some of the most popular social media channels, and Facebook way out in front. Now this is active monthly users. I would say the Facebook ones probably took a wee bit of a hit since. But you look at LinkedIn, Google Plus tends to be anyone with a Google account. Instagram, surprisingly, is quite a high number of users, about 300 million, more so than Twitter. And then you have websites like Tumblr, which a lot of people will go to, you know, to read content, to read through things, and then Snapchat as well. So it sort of shows you that there's quite a range there of social sites that people are getting content from on a daily basis. And again, they target, you know, B2C sites, B2B. There's also more time being spent on social media sites. So just a few stats. It shows, you know, Facebook's way out in front, but 480 minutes a month. You know, that's a lot of time spent in front of a screen like Facebook. You know, there's a lot of content being shared there, and that's just average. So you think of people that maybe aren't using it that much versus people that are using Facebook quite a bit. And then we come down to look at Twitter usage and Google Plus usage. So I mean, that sort of highlights that, you know, channels like Twitter and Facebook are a great way to start to push content out there. They can be a great first point of making people, you know, making people aware of a video you've done, and making people aware of something that you have created, you know, a blog post or something like that there. I suppose the challenge going forward is that it's going to become expensive to maybe get your content out there. Facebook are making it more expensive, you know, making it harder for pages to get their content and their posts seen by their, you know, by their fans that you maybe spent money acquiring in the first place. So it'll be a challenge for these pages for these channels anyway going forward. But I mean, one thing for sure is social media is definitely here to stay, and it will be a big part, will play a big part in how people digest content, and I suppose the continued growth of content marketing over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And why content marketing works? Well, this is just a wee quick sort of traffic chart, and what I've decided to use here is my own blog. So I don't promote my own blog, I just purely create content. It's a food and travel blog, so the content is text-based, videos, a lot of photos, things like that there. Use social media channels to post all that out. Don't promote anything. And from starting last January, just purely based on the content and getting it out to certain channels, you know, the traffic has gone from 500 till over 4,500. So that's just based on content marketing without actually promoting or spending anything. You know, that's just purely based on generating content for a website, creating videos to share across the web. You know, that sort of shows you what can be done with content marketing. So getting started, for me, there's 5 steps to really sort of getting started with any content marketing strategy. The first and probably most important is the research. You know, taking a look at, 1, your competition, and 2, probably, you know, the keywords and starting to generate ideas for, certain keywords that you want to rank for, but then what can tie into that there? So a video that can maybe associate with a certain group of keywords. I start to create content around that. That'll all come through an idea generation session as well. And these don't have to take long. As I say, I'll be uploading these slides, and there's a link there to our own website where we talk about how you can create 100 ideas in 30 minutes. 30 minutes isn't a huge deal of time out of a working week. And to get 100 ideas, one of them might turn into an absolutely fantastic idea that is well worth the time that's been put into generating it. So if you read it that there, you can see how you can create a lot of ideas in very minimal time with a small group of people. And for things like that, I would encourage, pulling people from other areas of the business, getting ideas from other areas. And then you start to plan and test. You start to plan your content, start to plan projects, start to look at certain content marketing ideas as projects on their own and start to plan around that there. And start to test them. Maybe if it's a certain microsite for a particular project, start to test that there, see how users react whenever they come to the site. Test certain headlines, test certain video cuts and things like that, use internal testing before you start to push it out to the masses. Start to share your content and find influencers. So use channels like Twitter, use channels like LinkedIn to start to share your content and to start to see who can help you share it. This will all help generate, awareness and also potential links, which will be huge value to the content marketing efforts. And finally, review and improve. Use your analytics. Use your insights. Get the metrics. See how people are coming to the site off the back of your efforts, and see what can be done to improve it for the next time, and start the cycle again. So for me, just a few tips to creating quality content. The biggest thing is something unique. Don't do something that somebody else has already done. Create personas and start to focus your content on them. So know who you're writing for. Have a particular person in mind. Have a customer in mind that you're writing something for, that you're creating the video for, that you're doing something for, to make it much easier with your efforts. Think mobile first. And start to maximize your value. Don't just think that creating a blog is enough or creating a video is enough. Put it up to YouTube. That's the job done. A video can turn into a written text article that can turn into a small email. Information from that might turn into an infographic. You could turn that content into a podcast of some sort. Don't just get one content channel, I suppose, out of your efforts. Try and get as much as you can from it. Start to share it across social platforms. Start to tie in with bloggers, other influencers. Try and stretch your particular content efforts as far and wide as you can. And with video, certainly, less seems to be more. People want the information quickly, and the growth of channels like Vine is a 6-second video. Instagram 15, Snapchat is showing that users are starting to grow up now digesting short video. Text-based articles, I tend to go with quantity and quality. So if you're writing text-based articles, try and think longer as well. Google seems to reward sites that are around sort of 1,000 word mark. I tend to sort of go for anything between 500 and 1,000, unless it's going to be a real detailed article that can then be turned into a white paper or a more detailed guide. And learn from past efforts. Look to see what works, what didn't work. How can you use the things that work to continue things moving forward, and how can you look at the things that didn't work to try and evolve and start again. So a couple of useful tools. You can be crawling across the web and you might come across a piece of content you think would be useful at some stage. Tools like Pocket and Delicious are good for bookmarking content that you can come back and read at a later date and maybe use it as inspiration. Speaking of inspiration, sites like Feedly and Flipboard Anywhere are a good way of feeding in content from channels that you might go to on a regular basis. And then other channels like BuzzSumo and Reddit. Reddit in particular is an underused channel where most of the stuff you'll see on BuzzFeed and other channels like that probably will have come through Reddit first. In terms of social media, tools like Buffer and Hootsuite make it so much easier to manage social media accounts to save time there. And then things like FollowerWonk to find out influencers within your industry, to find out people that are talking about a certain thing and see how you can tap into them to help your content marketing efforts. And Twitter. never underuse, never underuse, I suppose, the value of Twitter and the Twitter search tool, and people talking about particular content and what are they talking about and what are they sharing. Also, internal collaboration, something that we've started using in the Tomorrow Lab is a tool called Slack, and this is just a way of bouncing ideas off one another, sharing content with one another that you can read internally and share your thoughts on it. If you're not able to sit down every day or every week, that's a good way to start to share content and get ideas off people to start to put plans in place. Test your ideas. So 5secondtest.com is a good tool for testing titles and things like that there. So if you've come up with a really informative article and the headline can mean so much and getting people to click through and share it, use something like this here to test it, to see what works best. On Google, especially when it comes to generating content ideas, Google search can be fantastic. Just type into the search bar, see what Google is suggesting as most popular searches and things like that, start to build content around that, and look at Google Trends, see what people are starting to talk about more, starting to search for more, and what people are maybe starting to search for less, and bring that into your content marketing strategy. So just a quick recap. So when planning a content marketing strategy today, big thing is plan effectively and create a creative environment. Get ideas flowing. Don't underestimate the continuing impact of mobile and also social media. They aren't going away. Videos are becoming huge. Bloggers, video bloggers, they're becoming brand advocates. And also, younger consumers are growing up. They're growing up around this here. Continued importance of speed, both in terms of getting your content. Users want to get the information quick, but also they want to get it on a site that's quick, that they can go from one page to another relatively quickly. Be sure to promote your efforts. Try and set aside some budget within a content marketing strategy to promote content, to promote videos, to try and put it in front of the right audience. And let your customers join in. We've seen there with the Starbucks and the Discover NI on the Expedia case, that encouraging customers to give their thoughts, encouraging people through social media channels to share photos, to share ideas, feed all that into your content marketing efforts, and then start to share it. That'll be a big thing going forward. So that is the end of this first part of the talk. If you have questions, what I would like to do maybe is, if we hold on to the end, I'm going to do a quick Q&A here with Wayne on reputation management online, and after that, there we can we'll open the floor out to questions, and if Andy has any questions through the Twitter channel.
Yeah, just on that, we've had some good questions through already. Same sort of hardcore number of people sending the questions in. So if anyone else has any, please feel free to send them through. We're more the better, really.
Yeah.
And the other thing, just while we're getting set up for the next part, there is a sign-in sheet that's gone around. I don't know if it's stopped or if it's still progressing its way around. There's a section on the end there which is for free website audits. If anybody is interested in an audit of their website, if you just tick the box, we'll get in touch later on and run through that process. It won't be today, but we'll run through that later.
One of the things that should have said there was this. This is the third Tomorrow Lab Presents talks we've had, and basically it's, I suppose we're trying to get out and start to share some of the knowledge we have in-house with companies within Northern Ireland, and it's something we're looking to run every 2 months. Our next talk is actually going to be in June, and it's going to be a talk on websites. Title hasn't been decided yet, but the date will be Thursday, 18th of June. So look out. We'll be firing out emails. We'll be sharing it on Twitter, on on our website and things like that. So just keep an eye out for the topic, and if it's something that interests you, same process as before. Sign up, and it'll be a similar sort of set, and just come along, and we'll have someone chatting on it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Wayne Denner, Digital Ninja. You said your water there. So what I have here is just a series of questions. Just I'm going to run through with Wayne. Let's just get them open here. And then, as I say, after that, there we'll sort of open the floor out open the floor out to questions. But first, I suppose, for those maybe that don't know Wayne or aren't aware, Wayne's he's a speaker, lecturer, author with many years' experience within the Northern Ireland digital marketing industry. I suppose, Wayne, to kick things off, would you maybe tell the guys a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I suppose, firstly, thanks for the opportunity to come here and chat and share some information or knowledge. I think what Niall covered was spot on in relation to content, and you're always learning new things. I've been involved in the digital space, I suppose, for about 17 years now. Sort of very early internet days, back in about 1995, 96, when it was a completely different landscape than it is right now. And really working through a number of different areas of digital. Obviously education being a core component, working with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and then working with brands, really helping them develop their online digital strategies, how they can engage with their customers, how they can utilize the channels that we have available to us right now. So really going through the whole journey of digital and really seeing it evolve into what it's become right now, which is a very, very exciting space for businesses and brands. And really the core focus for me right now is helping businesses look at their online reputation, the things that they need to think about in relation to if something goes wrong online, who do you talk to? How you handle that conversation online. And really an extension of what Niall was talking about, really, how do you generate positive content online that you can use to your advantage to improve visibility in search engines, to enhance engagement with customers and all that sort of stuff. So really I went through the whole cycle into a point now where I'm actually going out now and delivering content, delivering the CIM Digital Marketing Essentials program, integrating digital media and branding, and then really, looking at it from an online reputation point of view. So another side of my business is really educating young people. I spend a lot of time going to schools, talking to kids about what not to say online, how not to get yourself in trouble. 93% of recruiters admit to looking applicants up online, and 50% will screen out based on silly stuff we posted online in the past. So really, how do you use social media to your advantage?
Leads nicely on to my next question. Yeah. So before Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and even Bebo, there was outlastnight.com.
Yeah, there was.
Probably Northern Ireland's first social media channel. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about that, but also how you think the social landscape has changed, if it's changed, from way back in the mid to late 90s there?
Yeah, probably Ireland's first social media channel. And really it hasn't changed a whole heap, because what people wanted back then, and when we were doing Out Last Night in about 1998, 1999, pre-Facebook and all this sort of stuff, was content. I mean, that's what people wanted. They wanted content. And I suppose the whole idea behind Out Last Night was we went around nightclubs, venues, and we took pictures of people out enjoying themselves, and we posted them online. We had a lot of traffic coming to the website every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because people wanted to consume that content from their nights out. And I seen a trend really back then, because nobody was really doing it. And if we look at it right now, what's happened right now, if we put it in context, the sheer volume of pictures that we were uploading back then, and the traffic that we were getting to the website, because it was a very early social networking website. 750 million pictures are uploaded to Snapchat on a daily basis, compared to 350 million a day on Facebook. So people are creating their own content. And what we were doing back then was we were creating the content for them. And it was a very, very early social network. And we built it to a really large user base. But unfortunately, nobody was lending the technology startups back then. We couldn't get any money. And when I went to the Northern Bank, as it was called at the time, and asked the bank manager for a loan, I said, I've got this great idea. It's kind of like a social networking website. And here's what we do. We go around bars and nightclubs and take pictures of people out enjoying themselves. And the bank manager in a shirt and tie kind of looked at me really strange, going, that will never work. Little did he know, just a couple of years down the line, Bebo came on the scene, which was the social media platform, which eventually put my little social media platform out of business, because users could then create their own content. So that was great for me, because that gave me a big opportunity really to roll up my sleeves and get involved with content creation very, very early on. So that was an interesting experience for me,
Mm-hmm.
and one that I learned an awful lot in.
And one of the things that you're involved with quite heavily now is online reputation management.
Yeah.
And you recently published an article on the popular State of Digital
Yeah.
site that looked at how bad reviews can actually be good for a business. Now, that's something that would scare a lot of organizations, no matter what size they are. Bad reviews, negativity. Can you maybe discuss a little on this about how it can actually, be good for a business?
Well, I think we gotta be very, very aware now that peer recommendations is very much a part of the consumer purchasing cycle. People will go online and will read reviews before they buy absolutely anything. So you got to assume that. I mean, and no sector is really isolated from this. For example, ratemyteachers.com, where you can actually rate your teacher, of how good they are. And so no sector is isolated from this. So we really have to think about how can we embrace peer recommendations and how can we use them to our advantage first and foremost, because that provides an awful lot of information that we wouldn't have had 7 or 8 years ago. If we think of TripAdvisor, if we think of Yelp, if we think of Swarm and Foursquare and all these things where, when people have had an experience with your business or brand, they're going to go online and they're going to write about it. And hopefully that's positive. The challenge for us as businesses is to ensure that that's positive. We've got to make sure all our staff are up to date. They know how to deliver good customer service, because everyone has a smartphone right now. If the experience is bad, that person's going to go online and leave a review. So there's a massive amount of information out there for us as businesses and brands to access and really use that data to our advantage to maybe look at what our competitors are doing, see how they're getting it wrong with customers, and find out ways that we can implement changes within our business and within our organization to limit or reduce that from happening in the future. So we can't run scared of online reviews. We've got to encourage them. We've got to use them to our advantage. But we've got to make sure that everyone within our organization is very aware. I'm talking about everybody, absolutely, from the cleaner right through to the chief executive, is aware of the impact that a negative review can have on our business, but also that we embrace that and we encourage our customers to generate positive reviews. Because what we're not doing right now is we're not encouraging our customers to generate positive reviews a lot of the time. What happens is when something goes wrong, the customer takes it upon themselves to go online and leave that review. But if we have had a customer who's had a good experience with our business and brand, we got to encourage them to go online and actually voice that experience, because that experience will help improve the visibility of the business within the search engine and all that sort of stuff, because it's a positive review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly negative reviews on social can be something to put off a lot of people, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they maybe hide and delete it. But from our experience, it's always a case of face out there, try and get involved with the conversation, maybe take it to the private platforms, give an email address, ask them to DM you for more information, and just take that off the public space, because you can very easily, if it's managed rightly, turn a bad review, and a customer that could be lost into a customer that, well, it was something small, and they are now, they're still a customer essentially.
I suppose my 3 tips for that would be have a process for handling the review. Every organization should have a process right now, because you've got to assume that people are going to go online and leave that review, be it positive or negative. So internally, you have to have your process for handling that review, okay? Then you've got to identify the content. So is it spam? Is it a disgruntled customer? Or is it positive, constructive feedback? So you've got to identify the content. And then as Niall says rightly, you've got to find a way then to engage with that customer and find a way to take that offline as swiftly as possible, particularly if it's a disgruntled customer. Mm-hmm. But you need to have a process. You've got to have a process, and every business right now should have a process for handling reviews online.
Mm-hmm. So you've recently published a book on managing online reputation, particularly with youth in mind, kids and how kids use social media and things like that. But what do you think would be the most important thing to remember for managing reputation online, both from an individual point of view? So as you said earlier about recruiters look at what we write in social media. So both from an individual point of view and an organizational point of view, the biggest thing is to making sure you manage your own reputation well online?
Yeah, well, the book really came about. I mean, the book's called The Student's Guide to an Epic Online Reputation. And really, you know, it was, I suppose, written for students, but it's relevant for absolutely anybody because the content in it is applicable whether you're a student, whether you're a small business, or whether you're a large corporation. The principles are the exact same, whether you're an individual looking to protect your reputation or you're a brand. The components are the same. It's just how you apply them in the setting. But I think the number one thing is just to be aware. Be very, very aware that conversations are taking place online. They're happening right now. I mean, conversations are taking place with the stuff that I'm saying here. Hopefully it's positive, but conversations are taking place. You know, people are, you know, aware it's being streamed. So we've got to be very aware now that we live in a time now where reviews matter and conversations are taking place about our business and our brand and our organization all the time. So we have to ensure that we're listening in the correct places where those conversations are taking place. And as Niall mentioned in his presentation, there's a number of different platforms now where conversations are taking place. The key thing right now is to be aware. Be aware that those conversations are happening and have a process in place to handle the conversation. Should it get out of hand?
Yeah. So that leads in nicely to my next question, which is sort of looking at social media. So it is very much about managing reputation, but it's also about, you know, as we talked earlier, sharing content and engaging and interacting with your audience. And quite often it can become a battle of, you know, we want fans, we want likes, we want likes, we want likes versus engagement. You know, what do you see as the most important aspect of, you know, of managing a social media page for a brand? You know,
absolutely engagement. Hands down would be engagement, and that stems back to what Niall was saying earlier on about your content. I mean, you got to think very carefully about your content. Your content's got to be good. It's got to be engaging. If it's good, it's going to be engaging, and that's really, really important. And I tend to say to people, you know, don't get hung up on the numbers. The numbers will come if you're creating good content. That's the bottom line. The problem with content is many people get frustrated with it because it's not happening quick enough, and it takes a long time. You've got to put a lot of thought into your content. But I kid you not, if you put the investment into your content, you work with good people, and you know they're creating good content either on your behalf or it's coming from your organization, your engagement will increase and that will convert. That is the thing. Don't get caught. Too many people get caught up on the numbers. The number of fans on Facebook, the number of followers on Twitter, and all that sort of stuff. Look at your content, because if you're creating good content, your audience will come. And it's all about engagement.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with that. Content is a big thing, and as you say, will eventually lead to the right sort of fan coming as well.
And that's key, the right fan, not just the fan that, you know, is not going to convert, the right person that's going to engage with you and stick around, consume your content, and then hopefully then after a period of time, you're going to be able to convert them into a paying customer. It might take a bit of time. I've seen people, you know, consuming my content. It might take up to 6 months, but that does convert, and that is where it's worthwhile.
So I think we touched on Snapchat earlier, and I know you use it yourself, and you're also active with your blogs, videos, podcast channel as well. You know, how do you feel digital marketing and content marketing as a whole? You know, how do you feel, you know, it's changing, or, you know, where do you see it going?
Well, it's changed because we now have choice. And I think that's the big thing right now. You know, everyone in this room has choice of content that they want to consume, and depending on the platform that they want to consume it from. I mean, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was, 15 years ago, I mean, your choice was print, radio, TV, you know, direct mail or whatever else it is. And that was your choices. Now you have all these channels that you can consume content via. So I think it's important that you're creating content for a variety of different mediums, and you're not necessarily rehashing the same content and pushing it out through all these channels, because there'll be different people want to consume different content in different mediums. I mean, a big part of what I do is going into schools talking to kids. I mean, 98% of young people that I talk to in schools are on Snapchat. So if you're a business in this room right now and you're looking to engage with a youth audience, you've got to be putting your effort into pushing content out through Snapchat, because that's where the youth audience is right now. They're not on anything else, but they're on Snapchat and they're consuming content via Snapchat. And it's interesting to follow what Snapchat's doing right now in relation to the image-based content and also to the video-based content. And it's becoming somewhat of a news platform right now, you know, and it's investing heavily in that. So we have to think really, where are our audience? And then that begs the question, if you're looking to influence the youth audience, you're looking to engage with the youth audience, but maybe it's going to be their parents that are going to be buying your products or your services. Snapchat still presents an opportunity because you're going to be selling to the youth audience, who are going to be influencing their parents then to buy the products and the services. So Snapchat presents that very, very unique opportunity right now. So you've got to be looking across a number of different mediums. Certainly social, you've got to think well about video content. And it's something that I'm spending an awful lot of time right now doing short video content. And I'm pushing that content out through Facebook. That's a great medium for me right now, through the native video and getting it out through Facebook. I'm seeing some very, very good traction right now on some of the video content that I'm pushing out through Facebook. So you've got to look at a number of different channels, and you got to push your content out, but different content that's geared towards different audiences that are on those platforms, because that's tends to be what we forget as businesses. And I respect them. I did this as well, push the content out through all the channels, the same content. But then I took a step back and I looked at what does my audience want from me on that platform. They want short, snappy, engaging content in Snapchat. On Facebook, they might want something a little bit longer because of the different audience that I'm trying to engage with through Facebook.
And that probably, presents challenges for many organizations. So if we look at, companies who maybe are looking to start looking at a content marketing strategy, what do you see as probably the biggest, the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity, for someone, starting to really get involved with content marketing?
I suppose for all organizations, it's the time really. You know what I mean? It does take time. You've got to put a lot of thought in behind what it is, the content that you're trying to create for your audience or your demographic. And that's why I think it's important to work with people that are really good in that space of creating content. And I mean, I rely heavily on other people, on other businesses to even to point me in the right direction of what it is. So it's important that you're working with somebody who has a good grasp on the types of content that you could be creating for your business or your organization. And I think that's really, really important right now. There is a lot of stuff that you can do yourself, but to take it beyond the localized reach, and if you're particularly a business as well looking to reach outside of NI in Southern Ireland and the UK, beyond that, you've got to be working with somebody really that knows what they're doing and can help you create that content and execute that content effectively.
Some sound advice there. And one of the things I think a challenge for a lot of smaller organizations anyway is the knowledge, the education. And I know that's one of the things that you're big on is education within the digital sphere. And it's a big part of the Zero Lives Left podcast. If you could give advice to the guys in the room here who maybe are looking to further their knowledge of digital marketing, is there anything particular you think they should look at and going forward?
I think sessions like this are really, really important. I think, and hats off to you guys for running stuff like this. I think it's really, really important that you get out there, that you hear what other people are doing, you mentioned, connecting with key influencers online. That you're looking to see what other people are doing. You're not necessarily trying to rip their ideas off, but you're trying to look for best practices. And that's really, really important. When I started off in digital, there was no courses. It'd be the same for other people who started. There really was no courses. You kind of have to roll up your sleeves and kind of look at it and say, like, what is, this all about? And really, how can I use this for my business? But since then, there has been some great courses. The University of Ulster runs some stuff. The CIM runs some stuff. You guys are running this event here today, which gives the opportunity for Tomorrow Lab, Niall, and others to pass on that knowledge to people who are here. And then after that, it's about you guys going away and rolling up the sleeves and really saying, I kind of like what your man Wayne had to say, or I like what Niall had to say. And I'm going to start to think about looking at that for my business. Because it's not as difficult a lot of the times as it seems. The big challenge for many people is time. The courses out there will present you with a good sort of theory-based approach, but it then will really rely on you really working with an agency or rolling up your sleeves yourself and get the stuff in. There's some great online resources, State of Digital, Niall's blogging regularly. I've launched my own podcast over the past couple of weeks. We're up to episode 12 now, and it's called Zero Lives Left, and it's available on iTunes and Stitcher or whatever medium you want to access it on. But it's all about really bringing on different guests every week who really share their insight and their knowledge and really add value to the listener in relation to blogging, search engine optimization, content strategies. I mean, now is on talking about that sort of stuff. So, connect with people who are in the space. And that's what I do. I'm no expert in search engine optimization, but I connect with a few key people in the space, and they give me the knowledge that I need to know, or I can go to them and I can ask the questions that I need to ask in relation to improving visibility within search engines, all this sort of stuff, because that sort of stuff is very much connected to online reputation. So get yourself out there, get along to events like this, suck up the knowledge, and then go away with those key 2 to 3 takeaways and say, right, how can I implement that into my business right now? And if you're struggling to take it beyond that, then look for a good agency or a good partner that can help you take it to the next level. But education is key.
Mm-hmm. No, that's some great points there, Wayne. Thank you very much for coming along today.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
What I'll do now, guys, is we'll open the floor up for a few questions here. If you have anything for myself or Wayne, feel free to raise a hand. If not, I think Andy has a few that have come through Twitter. But no, I'd like to very much thank Wayne for giving up his time here and coming along today.
Thank you very much. So, does anyone have, who want to go the old-fashioned way? Put their hand up and throw out the first question. Sorry, go on, Mother.
Said about engaging a partner or an expert, how do you go about selecting somebody and making sure that they're going to fit with you and deliver what it is? There's a lot of people out there that go, yeah, expert social media.
No.
But how do you figure out who's crap to be
I always think you should pick the agency that gives you free pizza.
Yeah. I think I know from where we come from, a lot of that is based on what you have delivered for other people, and that's a big thing we look at is case studies of here's live examples of we have worked with this, we've done this, and here's the results. And there will be certain times where maybe certain projects don't work out. A lot of times where most projects will work out, and it really is probably finding a fit for a particular company and a particular budget and certain expectations, and it's trying to sort of make sure that all gels and fits together. But the biggest thing is probably doing a bit of research until looking at who they've worked with, and if you see who they've worked with on their website, maybe getting in touch with those organizations, finding out who the right person would be to speak to, usually be someone in the marketing team, and just ask them, sort of get a bit of feedback, a bit of information on how things went, what was the relationship, how what were ideas like, and what was the success eventually, or not the success as it could be. So really just doing your research and starting to talk to people, and you'll find that through a website. You might find certain influencers, people within that organization through LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that there, and just starting to maybe find the right person to talk to.
I think, just to add to that, I think peer recommendations, again, the recommendations are really important. I spend a lot of time, focusing on that with businesses. Even, there's key people who come to me regularly and say, look, when I'm looking for somebody with this discipline in digital, who do you know or who can you recommend? Because I've kind of been kicking around the block for a while. So I kind of know the go-to people, and I would always say go to such and such, because I know they're good, I know they don't BS people, and I know they'll deliver results. So that kind of net sort of, of referral goes on in this business. And I'm a big fan of that as well, because, what's happened in digital is that there's been a lot of traditional-led PR agencies have overnight become the digital marketing agencies. And, not against them or anything, but they may not have that skill set in-house that you need as a business. So therefore, I think it's nearly better to go to somebody and say, look, who would you recommend? You've been in this space a long time. And 9 times out of 10, I can signpost people to the relevant people. And I think that's important with digital. It's making sure that you go to the right person. And it's right now, it's looking at people with those specific disciplines that you need for the specific tasks that you're trying to complete right now, whether it be search engine optimization, whether it be content strategy, whether it be email marketing. These are all important skills in their own right. So I think getting the right recommendation is key. Yeah,
and I think one of the things as well is within Northern Ireland, the skill set, both within in-house teams and organisations and agencies, is growing by the year. And there are a number of excellent digital marketing agencies within Northern Ireland. And yeah, it would be a case, as Wayne said, chat to people, get peer reviews, and sort of do a bit of research yourself until who would be best to work with. And free pizza.
Brilliant, obviously. A question probably for you now, going back to you talking about personas. Do you recommend using them, and how do you go about developing them?
I do recommend using them. It's something we've done ourselves. Develop on our own digital marketing strategy recently. We've looked at personas, and the way we looked at personas was, who do we see as our customer, right? What are their habits? What are their habits online? What are their habits in general? You know, what do they do in their spare time? You know, and trying to sort of envisage one particular person as a persona for a set audience. So in our instance, it might be a persona for someone who is looking at a website, right? Who will that be? How can we get our content in front of them? If you're selling a particular product, you might have a sort of an age demographic in mind there, and then you want to sort of filter around that, right? What are they likely to buy in a shop? You know, what are they likely to do at the weekend? What are they likely to do in their spare time? And start to try and build things around that. And then you start to build your content around that as well, right? So what sort of content are they likely to read and interact with? And start to really build your plan around that. For me, personas are a huge thing. And you will find quite a lot of useful resources online as well. You know, some good guides on, even if you just search, you know, creating marketing personas, creating business personas, you will find good guides online that will start to put you in the right direction. But certainly anyone dealing with generating content online, you know, as Wayne said, you'll have different people, different audience groups use different platforms, and that's where personas can become really useful.
Thank you. A question which maybe you both could answer, because there might be different answers to this one. How often should a content marketing plan be reviewed?
We would probably review ours about every 3 months. You know, you want to review it as often as you can, but not to the point that you're not really giving things enough time to work. You know, after 3 months, you can tend to get a bit of an idea of how things are working. You want to try and let a lot of things maybe go for 6 months till a year, depending on the nature of the market as well, depending on the nature of the industry. If it's a really competitive industry, things will take time. They will take longer. But in general, we'll tend to review things every 3 months to get an idea of, you know, has there been any impact? You know, the content we're putting out there, right? You know, how's that performing across social platforms? You know, is that starting to bring people to the website? You know, are we starting to notice bloggers writing about it? Are we starting to notice bloggers linking certain things? And I mean, you can get that sort of information through Google Webmaster Tools and things like that there. So yeah, I would say, you know, as a minimum, probably every 3 months, and looking at least every year to review your efforts, to review what worked, what didn't work whenever you're sitting down to plan again.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think as well, do understand that it does take time. You know, it doesn't just happen overnight. I mean, you gotta, as Nan says, you gotta give it time to grow. You gotta give it time to bed in, because you're trying to build a community effectively, and that just doesn't happen overnight. You're trying to build your audience. I think the only thing I would add to that is be aware of new developments. Find out ways that you can get on board with them. I mean, Periscope being the obvious example right now. I mean, get in early and think of ways when a new app like that comes out. Find out ways that you could start to use that for your business to push out that live video content, and maybe integrate that into your content strategy as well.
Not so much a question, but one I'm going to make into a question. There was an interesting debate, and I mentioned Google Plus, which is usually the first thing that gets people looking at each other going, what is it for? Barry pushed out a stat which said that only 80-90% was it of Google Plus users only post once, which was followed up by Kyle, who then said that actually it's driving some good traffic for their site. Can you give in maybe a minute a bit of an outline as to what Google Plus is, Niall, and maybe Wayne, just to bring you back in, how you would maybe look at using that for your business or for any business really?
Yeah, well, I mean, suppose Google Plus is Google's attempt at getting a social media platform out there, but I don't think it's as much of a social media platform. It is a good way to get content out there. You know, it is a good way if you have blog posts, if you have articles, if you have videos, to push them up on Google Plus, and that can improve your visibility for that particular piece of content quite quickly within the Google search results page. In terms of driving traffic to the site, I'm sure there are examples where it can work really well. There are a lot of businesses that Google Plus just doesn't really lend itself that well, particularly, you know, e-commerce websites. I'm thinking B2C sites. I mean, the 90% of people who post only once, is probably everyone who's not in the digital marketing industry, and they're probably the 10% that use it quite regularly. So I mean, I'm sure there are examples of it working quite well, and I would say certainly, you know, utilize it for pushing content out there. You know, setting up your publisher page on it, pushing your blog content out there, uploading video content from YouTube. I mean, we're using it here today, streaming the video to Google Plus here, and we found that a useful way for us to use it. Automatically, you know, converts that into a YouTube video that we can then start to feed into our content. So it does have some, there certainly does have some uses. As a social media tool, which I think was the initial intention from Google. I'm not sure it's really done that, but certainly if it works, when we talk about sort of reviewing channels and things that work, if you find out that, you know, the content you're pushing up there is good at, you know, driving people to the site, you know, continue to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything you're saying there. I mean, I don't think there's much that I can add to that really, but obviously it's a Google product, and I think it's important, you know, not to dismiss it. And I do spend a bit of time on it, pushing content out, video content and that sort of stuff. So, and again, I have seen a little bit of traction, you know, as a result of that. So I think we can't dismiss it, and I think we do need to still look at it from a marketing point of view.
And just a show of hands really, from a business point of view, how many people use Google Plus? How many companies use it? And just interested, and anyone finding it really useful? Anyone still thinking, what's the purpose of this? So the useful side of things is a very new trend that get them on. And are you still thinking, what's the purpose of this, and is it working for you?
Well, I use Google Plus as one of the channels to put all my blog content out, and it's the least traffic generating channel that I have. Most of my blog content comes from organic search traffic, a bit of Facebook, and a lot of Twitter, and not on Google Plus. Despite the fact that Google Plus claims they have 180,000 followers, it just doesn't get any traction at all.
And
I was just going to say it's not a huge driver of traffic, but as Wayne said, because it's a Google product, going forward is important to probably have a presence on there, because it's, you know, they're basically got a monopoly when it comes to SEO stuff, so just keep it on the right side.
And one more question now on content marketing, then there's just a couple of hopefully quick fire ones. One question that comes up from small businesses all the time, you look at the presentation, we talked about maybe engaging agencies, but some businesses just either don't have the resources for that, but still want to take part in content marketing. How do they focus on what bit they can do with the resources they have? How do you start by picking which bit's going to work for me?
It's probably a, you know, it is a case of, you know, testing different avenues. I mean, that is probably one of the things that would hamper a lot of smaller organizations, is the time to invest in it. You know, creating any sort of content is going to take time. You know, generating the ideas, you know, generating the content, be it even if it's a short video, you know, it still takes time to do that, to maybe use some tools to edit it. You know, if it's creating a blog, it takes time to sit down to get the idea right, to actually write it out, to maybe give it to someone else to proof. You know, it probably is a case of just, you know, starting off with type of content that's maybe easiest to get done first. You know, looking at some blog content, you know, maybe then trying a small video down the line and starting to push it out, and then using your analytics to see, right, this is leading, this is getting me leads, this is potentially getting me business. Once you see that, you know, return on investment, then that's where you can start to realize, right, well, you know, we need to start investing more time in this, or we maybe need to look at partnering up with an agency, or looking at getting someone in part-time who has the skills for this, or on a freelance basis who has the skills for this, and they can really help us continue to drive that forward. So what I'd say is maybe, you know, try some of the techniques, you know, see what works. As we said earlier, you know, you have to give it a bit of time as well. There's no point in trying it for a month or two and then realizing, God, I don't have the time for this, or I'm not seeing the return that I expected after 2 months. You know, these things take time, but, you know, try them out, take the time to try out different things, see what works best. And then over time, you will see a return on the time that you're spending. And from that, then you just start to utilize the ones that work really well, and then add other sort of techniques in there over time as best you can within, you know, within, I suppose, budget restrictions, time restrictions, staffing restrictions, and things like that.
Sorry, I was going to say that was my last question on content marketing, but I lied now, but just a supplementary one. So how do you find a target list of bloggers?
How do I find?
Yes.
We use a lot of tools, but you know, Twitter is probably one of the best out there. You know, if you just go onto Twitter and even Google search and you're looking for a particular blogger in a particular area, you know, just a simple search. You know, for example, if you're looking at a beauty blogger, go to Google, type in beauty blogger. You know, go to Twitter, type in beauty blogger. There's popular hashtags that bloggers use when they're sharing content. And again, you know, that can take time. There are tools that make it a lot quicker to get those lists of bloggers. But no matter what, if you know, if you're looking to start to build relationships with bloggers as part of your content marketing effort, you know, it's going to take time because you're going to need to read their blog. You're going to need to start to establish a relationship with them. You know, start to share content with them. That all does take time. But you know, use Google, use Twitter, use Follower Wonk, which we had up there earlier. It's a good way of finding influencers in particular industries based on particular keywords and things like that. And maybe take a look at, you know, using Google Alerts even and see who's talking about certain things. You know, particular blogs are talking about this topic in particular, start to add them and start to build a real sort of master database of bloggers where you can start to, you know, get their names, you know, and start to build a relationship there.
Just on that note, I'm speaking at a conference on Sunday in Galway, actually, and it's Into the West Bloggers. It's called, if you look at the hashtag, ITV, whatever it is, just follow me, you'll see some of the tweets back and forth. And it's quite a lot of the bloggers from around Ireland are descending on the G Hotel in Galway on Sunday for a big blogging conference. And I'm talking about online reputation, but a lot of the beauty, fashion, food, bloggers around Ireland, some pretty big ones are going to be at that as well. So anybody who's looking at that, connect with me and I'll send you guys the hashtag and maybe it's a way to connect and find some bloggers.
And conferences are a good way as well because, you know, and I know I was at one 2 years ago in Dublin, which was it's called TBEX, which is the biggest travel blogging conference in the world. And you know, that kind of anything from, you know, 500, 600, 700, 800 travel bloggers at one area talking about things. And as Wayne said, there'll be a particular hashtag on Twitter, but you'll have people who maybe aren't there, but are travel bloggers that are talking about it as well. And that's a great way just to go and type in that hashtag and see, right, who all is talking about this here and start to build a list around that there, you know. And again, then you'll have to invest the time in actually reaching out and connecting with the bloggers.
This one's squarely for you, Wayne. How do you go about changing senior management's view that the best way to deal with negative comments is just to delete?
Don't. No, I mean, it's again, it boils back to an education point of view within an organization. It's very important that everyone within an organization is aware that user-generated content takes place and it happens. And we want to encourage that user-generated content. Just because somebody goes online and says that they had a negative experience with our business or our brand doesn't give us the right to delete that content, because that person has a voice. And you know, pretty quickly, if you engage in that sort of behaviour, you're going to find that will manifest itself in other ways online. It can become something incredibly difficult for you to manage. So again, it's back to what I said earlier on. It's important that you have a process for managing that internally. You identify the content and you find ways to take it offline. You don't delete your content, because a lot of the times, if you've addressed that person is going to come back online and say, you know, they handled it really well. Thank you so much for reaching out. And it's not that, of course, trolling takes place. There is people who set up bogus pages and this, that, and the other. However, most of the people that I've come across aren't actually out to damage your business. They're out to give you constructive criticism, and it's how you manage that internally. And I think the answer is not to delete content, not to delete reviews.
Yeah, I think to add in that.
Sorry, go on.
What's your feedback or what would your advice be to the early beach quality company that can follow criticism?
Yeah, I mean, again, it all boils back to how it's handled a lot of the time.
Do you need some other?
Yeah. Again, yeah, you know, I've read some of that. I mean, and they're not alone in that sort of stuff. I mean, there's been other brands who've got it wrong, they've made major gaps when it comes to how they've handled the initial interaction. And the initial interaction is very, very important, actually, because that's the thing that's going to define how it plays out a lot of the time. And it's only a matter of time before mainstream media organizations pick this up and they're running it to a bigger audience. So again, I think the initial interaction between the brand and the person or persons is very important. But it's also important that you identify the key contributors and the key influencers to that conversation, and that you address them as well, and you look at that. So it's important that the initial interaction is handled accordingly. and you find ways to take the conversation offline, if at all possible. Crisis PR plan, an online crisis PR plan is really important right now, and I think every organisation should be looking at that.
Speaking of the protein roll campaign, by the way, they didn't mind that blowing up in their face. In fact, they were probably happy that it was blowing up in their face.
Yeah,
Because the people who denounced it wouldn't go to buy the product anyway. And the people who were using it or use similar products now get exposed to their brand. So they were actually happy that that went wrong.
It's the Paddy Power thought of going through and being purposely controversial. I think the important thing that they do with Paddy Power is that everyone's bought in from the top to the bottom. If you took some of the negative press they had into the boardroom, and that was the first time they'd seen it, everyone would quickly be looking for a new job.
Yeah.
If they've bought into it from the beginning, you're going to find that that's, you're hitting all the metrics that they're after. So,
then you have those jumping on buying them.
I think that's an interesting point about being quick to react, because we've seen with that and with the dress as well that there's been a lot of people jumping on it and being quite quick to react. And do you want to just say anything about that, about whether it's a good thing or bad thing? Should you be careful?
It is a good thing, but it can become a bad thing as well when all of a sudden you maybe have a boss who wants, we want to have something quick there, and then all of a sudden people are competing for being the first, the first, I suppose, copycat thing that people see. Like, I always look back to the World Cup last year whenever Suarez did the infamous bite, and all of a sudden the whole of Twitter was going crazy for what he had done. But you obviously had certain brands who had their creative teams probably had this done up in advance because they knew of his reputation. As soon as that happened, bang, that was straight online, and they were able to sort of make a play on that there. So sort of right time, right place is like something reacting quickly like that is often having something designed up in advance, hoping that this may happen. And I mean, that may never happen, but it's there. In the case of another famous one is Oreo and the Super Bowl. So the lights went out in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and Oreo sent out a tweet that was, "Don't worry, you can still dunk in the dark." And that was because they had their creative team sitting there. This happened. They got the tweet out, became the most retweeted tweet of the Super Bowl against people who had invested millions in advertising in the Super Bowl. So that was just, right time, right people there, right place. So, it's for every one Oreo, there's probably 200, 300, 400 of every other organization.
I don't think protein was created that night. Someone else created it. They just capitalized
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Heineken's was a good one. Yeah.
And you're beer bottle and
And you saw this thing that Hunky Dory did on Long Island, it's not that long ago,
Yeah.
where they had these fairly broken billboards, and they never apologized for that. They were happy that what they did. They didn't intend that to happen, but they capitalized on it.
there's an interesting thing to look at in terms of what, if you look at those adverts for Protein World, they're no better or no worse than hundreds of other ads you could see all over the place. And what I find interesting is why that one blew up. I don't quite know the answer, and I am going to go and try and just see if I can find out why that one blew up. What was it that stoked the flames on that one? Because you can open any magazine, women's magazine, men's magazine, look at the TV, you'll see ads that are as provocative as that haven't blown up, that haven't had all the publicity to do with that. So, why does something catch on? When people come to you to say, can we have a viral video? No, you can't. You can have a video. It might become viral at some point, but no, you can't have a viral video. It doesn't work like that. So there's a lot of factors in there as to why that one caught on. Any more questions from the floor? Because we've got just one more question for Wayne. So it's probably the most important, trickiest question of the day. It comes from the floor. You'll probably guess who from. How do you go about getting a hairdo like yours? That's right.
It's very difficult, Barry.
They're going home, man. When I look at your hair, I'm like, oh my God.
Actually, interestingly enough, obviously I do a lot of talk in schools, and I found my picture recently on a Jedward fan website where a student had taken a picture of me and says, "This guy looks a starking resemblance to Jedward."
When you say fan, why were you on the Jedward?
I was monitoring certain keywords. The Google alert allowed me to.
What keywords were you? I love Jedward. You're going to translate this an exact match.
It was actually my name that flagged it up to me. I mean, it just goes to show you that content is out there, and even as an individual, you've got to be aware that conversations and content makes its way online to the strangest of places, i.e. the Jesuit family. Trying to get it removed right now.
And a final question, we did get this asked by Twitter as well. I don't quite know the answer. Niall, you'll have to answer because you've got a microphone for Periscope. We've been asked how many hearts we got on Periscope. Thomas should have done that. That's the question. But the links for, if you want to watch this back again, just filling the time while Thomas looks for the answer. If you want to watch any of this back again, it'll be on YouTube. We'll post a link on our blog along with the slides, is that right?
Yeah.
We'll tweet that out over the next 24 hours or so. If you go to any of our blogs, there's a little sign-up box at the bottom if you're interested in having content emailed direct to you. Most of you, by the looks of things today, followed us on Twitter at the Tomorrow Lab if you haven't. So we push out the content via all these channels, so please feel free to connect with us. Ask any questions that you didn't want to ask today or that maybe come back to you later on. We'll continue to run these events and your feedback is important. You can email it, tweet it, tell us afterwards, just get the feedback to us one way or another and we'll put the form up as well to see if there's anything on there. And I suppose last thing from me, before I thank the guys, is if you've any any topics for future discussion that you'd like us to talk about, we're doing web development next time, but we're going to continue this series of events. So if there's anything like we'd love you to talk about this, then let us know and we'll see if we can filter that in. So one more time,
Have an
thanks very
answer?
much. I've got an answer.
Tens of thousands, is it?
Unfortunately not. 42 hearts from 413 live viewers.
That's all right.
42 hearts from 413 live viewers. Brilliant. I think that makes us famous almost.
Happy with that for a first attempt.
Absolutely, for the first time. So
Yeah.
I'd like to just give Niall and Wayne thank you very much for the presentation today. And please do grab a pizza and stay home, and stay around me, go have a chat. The Tomorrow Lab team